Alrighty. Welcome to the Community Preservation Committee meeting out at 1 Government Center Hearing Room at 6 o'clock, March 24th. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person who make an audio or video recording of this public transmit the meeting, though any medium, attendees are therefore advised that such recording or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and deemed acknowledged and permissible. We'll start with roll call to my left.
Michael Ferrier here.
Alexander Silva here.
John Brandt here.
James Hornsby here.
Rick Mancini here.
And on Zoom, Kristen, just state that you're on Zoom too when you...
Yep, Kristen Cantara Oliveira attending remotely by Zoom.
Joanne?
Joanne Bentley attending remotely by Zoom.
Chris Benavides attending remotely by Zoom.
Okay, thank you. We also have Sandy Dennis here for our administrative assistant. Let's see, citizen input. Michael, did you want to go now, or did you want to go after the presentation?
Whenever the board would like to.
It should be on the first is on the agenda.
Okay, you should come up now since you're on the agenda.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Michael Pinacho. I own Mike's Auto Body on 535 Bay Street. I've been a resident of Fall River since 1959. I was born here. I've seen a lot of things as a kid. Over the years, I've seen the city grow. I'm here to say, please approve this for Christ the Rock Church. It's a church, but it's a great place. I am a Christian. I've been saved since I was 27, 1986. I attend CFC in Dartmouth, but I do go to Christ the Rock on Thursday nights for Bible studies. They're awesome Bible studies. It's fun. We laugh, we joke, we feed people at Bible studies. And Pastor Rob's doing a great job with the church. He took over from his father-in-law, Pastor Jack, who was a great man, and he also was a sergeant in the police department. So there's integrity there. I've seen before Pastor Rob and Pastor Jack and Pastor Kathy go out, feed people, help people, go to the park, have haircuts for people who needed to be cleaned up a little bit. It's not just feeding them food, it's feeding them the love, compassion. It's amazing to see beautiful people doing beautiful things. And when I heard that there was going to be a meeting here about the church tower, I said, I got to say something, because this is a good thing. You know, I can't say where my tax dollars go. It goes to things I like or don't like, but that's life is. But helping support the ministry there, the love, they got a pantry there. You go there in the middle, in the sanctuary, there's bread there for people. A lot of people are giving. There's a gentleman that donated, I think, $10,000 in matching grants. And if this goes through, which I hope it does, he's going to step up some more. So it's not just the city, which is a great partner. It's the people. It's everybody in the church, everybody giving, caring. And if there's any questions that you have, I'm inside looking out, and I'm also outside looking in, because it's not my home church, but I love what they do. They're really great people.
Thanks for your comments. Does anyone have any?
Just a quick question. Do you reside in Fall River, or you just have your business in Fall River?
I have my business in Fall River.
Okay,
All my mail goes to my work address.
That's okay. I just wanted people to understand that you're
Yeah.
part of the community.
I went to Brayton Avenue School. I went to Diamond, and I'm a Fall River person.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nothing to say except thank you for speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Hornsby. Thank you. If you ever need me for anything else, please call.
Will do, thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is Christ the Rock Church emergency funding. Before you get started, could you let some of our new members here just go back to the basics when
Okay.
you first applied, and even tell us about, I see you got a nice grant.
Yes.
Explain that a little, and then get into the funding.
And who they are.
Yeah, who they are.
Yes, so my name is Robert Canavan. I'm the pastor of Christ the Rock Church on Rock Street. I've been in Fall River since 2018. I took over as the lead pastor about 2 years ago. The church is a beautiful church. If you've ever driven down Rock Street is stacked with amazing buildings and churches. The building's about 100 years old, and we've owned it since 1978-ish. But honestly, the church has been taking care of the building the way it should. We own that. It's our fault. The material that it's in, the condition that it's in. So I understand that our lack of planning isn't an emergency on your part. So I appreciate what you guys have done. A couple years ago when I took over as lead pastor, I sent out some emails to a few people. Jim Soul was one of them. I think Mr. Bouchard as well. And they were able to tell me that the church was on the National Historic Register, the local historic register. So that was great. And then we applied for a grant. I met Mike through Jim Soul as well, and Sandy and all of you guys. And so we started the funding thing a couple years ago, and you guys approved, I think it was just over 100,000. So we hired Paul, who's behind us, who could speak to he's been up and close with it. He knows what's going on with it. So he was able to do about $100,000 worth of work. I know he cut corners on his end to save the church money. We didn't pay for a lift. I think that lift was like, I don't know, the rental fee was astronomical, but we didn't have to pay for that, and a bunch of other things. As far as I know, whether I can say it or not, he hasn't taken a penny from us yet. I don't want to make that public knowledge, so don't put this on the internet. But I mean, people's hearts are in it, right? And so we're doing the best we can. We're a small church. I'm a pastor. I'm not a grant writer. I've written tons of grants and haven't heard back from them, so I couldn't provide rejections because I'm not even good enough to get rejected. So we just hired a grant writer. Her name's Jamie Dillon, and she works for Noble Nonprofits. So my hope is, because this project's going to cost a few $1 million to finish, to make it perfect. Right now, we just want to make it safe. And from what Paul behind us has told us is if we can get this next round of funding, it'll at least make that exterior part that's in danger of falling safe for the community. And then the next round we'll apply again. We'll do it the right way. But we're looking for other ways to pay for this, not just rely on you guys. So I appreciate you taking the time to at least hear us out on this matter.
Okay.
Did I answer the question you asked? Okay.
Yeah. Now, how are you doing on your outside funding? I see one guy.
Yeah, so we had a business in the city that wanted to remain anonymous, and they said that they would match any donation that came into the church up to $10,000. We didn't have that $10,000 check that we were hoping for, but we've had $100, $500, $500. A supermarket in the city, a small one, they donated almost $1,000. So the money's coming in, it's just really slow. So with the urgency from Paul and Mike, we really thought we would try to. We didn't know that this would even be possible, so the fact that you guys are letting us do an emergency application, we appreciate that. So we're chipping away at it. We're a small congregation, less than 100 people, and some of them are just recently, homeless, so it's not like they're giving. People think churches have tons of money, and the fact is we don't. So I get paid about minimum wage, if you want to figure that out. So it's not like the church has buckets of money, but I love my job. I love loving people in our city. So as long as that church can be there as a lighthouse to help people, we'll be here to do that. So, but we're not going to stop. Even if you give us the grant, we need over $1 million, so we're going to keep applying everywhere we can.
That's good. So if you want to tell us about what you're looking for as far as repairs this coming.
So, Mike Keene, Civitex Architect. So we can certainly invite Paul Choquette, the Mason, up as well.
Paul,
But what I can say is that what's been completed to date so far, as of last fall, is restoration of the tower up to not quite half the height of the tower. Okay, so once we started to get into it a little bit more, noticed that there's considerable damage to not so much the masonry units, the stone units themselves, but the mortar. It's really where it's deteriorated, and there's been a lot of shifting of those large masonry units as well. And you see that more so on the north side, which is really concealed from the public view. So it wasn't until Paul really got into it and we were able to get up on the scaffolding and really climb up and get out on the bell tower and look at that north side that it was pretty significant. So a lot of the tracery, the stone tracery that's there, it's in really a very bad shape, okay? And we've kept Mike and Alex certainly apprised of the work. We've had them out there a few times as well to see that firsthand. We've taken a bunch of photos and documented it. So, and just to go back to what Pastor Robin said earlier, that we understood that we were getting awarded $100,000 initially, and we said we would take it as far as we could and work with the Mason to see, get as much as we could. I will note that the mortar joints that are there, they're not original as far as the lower level. They were repointed maybe, would you say 50 years ago? They did some repointing work, and it wasn't done properly. Okay, they used a different type of mortar, not the lime-based mortar that really was there originally. So I think there are a couple of samples that Alex might have showed you previously, so you can really feel the density of the repointing that was done versus the original mortar, which is almost like a pumice. It's very light. So fortunately, you've taken out most of that in that lower level, and from what I can see, and I think you can see as well, that the upper section, including the north side, has the original mortar, so they shouldn't be encountering some of that, the difficulty. And they were going through so many blades as they were trying to grind out the mortar joints and burning through a lot of those. So I'm not anticipating that you'll have too much more of that, hopefully, as you get further up.
The mortar that they used 50 years ago, it was real strong and it caused the stones to shatter. It was too much pressure around them.
Could you talk to the mic? Could you move the mic over for him?
Sure.
Thank you.
When they pointed this up, say 50 years ago, they used a mortar, and years ago they figured that the stronger the mortar, the stronger the building, which is not correct. By using the density of the mortar that they use, it was like something like 5,000 or 8,000 psi. And when it did, it literally exploded around the perimeter of the stone. Also, it caused structural cracks in the stone itself. And the biggest issue that I've seen is that on the top section, on the east side, there's no mortar between the void of the brick and the stone, the back side of it. And those stones are just cantilevering up there. In a very short time, those stones on the east side and north side are going to collapse. And it's going to go through the roof of the church, and it's also going to go, there's a doorway on the east side on the lower level, and it could cause damage there. That's why I left the staging up, just so keep people away from there.
Yeah.
But it's a bad issue. I mean, I've worked on many churches and museums and things throughout my career, and this is the most intriguing one I've seen. It's really bad. And you got washout between the walls because the mortar on the top's like a type O, which is a very light, soft mortar. And eventually, if you don't do any maintenance, it causes the mortar to wash out. So, because you got a brick wall and you got the stone and there's a void in there. And there's fasteners. Well, some of the fasteners are snapped off from the pressure of the stones from the lower level. We've got, literally like we're doing is rebuilding the foundation up. The stone and the brick together. And we're up about 30 feet, 40 feet.
Not quite halfway.
Yeah, not quite halfway. And so if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer you, but
Basically, you're trying to use the same mortar they used originally?
yes.
And also some of the ties that you're doing, putting in the stainless steel tie so that you don't have future deterioration, not like you're seeing in some areas.
Right. What we're doing is in the backside, inside the tower itself, this brick veneer. And we're taking bricks out and making pockets to find out where the ties, first what we found out where the ties were originally. And we used that as a schematic so that we could figure out where they were going up the wall. And a lot of them were snapped off. So what we've done is we've taken the brick out and we've screwed the stone back into the brick veneer, and then we've infilled it with grout. So it's a solid mass now. But it's a lot of work.
Questions from the board?
Yeah, I just have a few questions. Thank you. Again, this is a prime example of hire the right individual and do the work correctly the first time around. And we've observed, Alex and I, what you've done, what you've come across. I had one just general question. I know, thank you for keeping the staging up. It's been kind of a rough winter, kind of a rough last couple of weeks, especially with the high winds and the rains and the snow. Is there any other deterioration since the last time we inspected it? Or
Yes.
do you think the numbers that you're looking at right now will get you to the finish line for
What
this
we
part of
did
the
was
work?
we swept off the sidewalk and the stairs in that, on the upper level. And we were over there a couple of weeks ago. I can go there and check it about every 2 weeks. And there's a lot of aggregate on the stairs and the sidewalk, so it's dropping off from the top.
Okay.
Some of the
Anything
stones are
structurally
touching
though,
each other.
with the inside of the building? Do you think it's still?
The inside, the brickwork is fine because it hasn't been weathered.
Okay.
You know, you've got that inside. And there's an air shaft, or there's a metal container. I guess years ago it was a vent shaft that goes inside the church for a ventilation system. And it's in the northeast corner. And I think that there's, because of what's going on, and that's that's holding it up.
Okay.
Because it's tied into the brickwork, which is tied into the some of the stonework.
And can you just do a quick, brief overview of what this phase of work would be? That way the public can understand. We've both identified and seen and confirmed the situation, and hence why we asked for this emergency meeting. But maybe just so that the public knows what you're trying to accomplish, and maybe even like a time frame. I don't even know if you're up and running yet, or do you
No.
have a couple more weeks or a couple more
Yes.
months?
We'll go back inside the tower and cut out more pockets and go up and continue on putting ties in the wall and then grouting it and then infilling the brick back. And then that way we know that the stone is somewhat stable. And then when we got on the outside, we packed between the stones and refinished it, basically.
And that's the north side and the east side that you're
Well,
trying to get
all three
accomplished?
sides, but the worst side, on the tower on the top northwest corner at the top, there's about 20 feet, 25 feet that is just hanging there. And the whole north side has to come down. We have to take those stones down literally and place them either inside or something and rebuild that section up, because that you can't repoint. I mean, it's just, I'm shocked that it hasn't fallen yet.
Okay.
I mean, it's bad. And then across the north, the backside where the roof is, and then on the northeast corner, if you look up at the tower from the sidewalk, for example, you can see it's got a big belly in it. Eventually that belly's gonna separate. And that's what I'm,
And there are sections in that northeast corner where there's no mortar.
there's no mortar there. No, it's all,
You can see it more so when you're on that section of the roof on the north side,
Right.
looking at that
yeah,
northeast
you
corner.
can, and it's causing water to penetrate through the walls and probably going inside the roof rafters on that side of the church. and cause issues with rafters and rafter tails and plaster and lather, just a continuous.
Very good, thank you.
Alex, anything?
Couple, if anyone wants to go first. No. Hi. So I'm a little bit more familiar with the conditions, but just some questions for the public's knowledge. Could you just maybe describe the impact the first grant had on the church, and if it, how it affected operations and such?
Well, from.
And then just at the mic,
Yeah,
just slide
sorry.
that over.
From the pastoral point of view, I mean, it was a relief that we had the funds coming in, knowing that you guys were gonna hold on to the money, because I thought we'd have to figure out, put it in the bank and, make sure we have every receipt. So Paul, and they were great with that Sandy communication. So that allowed us just to have the freedom to say, all right, Paul, go to work. And his crew was out there every day working hard. You guys saw all the progress they made. So that 100,000, I think you really stretched it to, I can't give you a number, but.
We went over the 100.
And he was great, and he zeroed it out as far as I know. So it's been a blessing to us. I mean, as far as what the 100,000 actually accomplished, I'd have to hand it off to Mike or Paul as far as the detail. But it sounds like we got not quite halfway up the building, and it's not picture perfect, but it's safe, the bottom part. So what I understand is they built a firm foundation, which we should have done years ago, and now they're gonna build up further. So what it sounds like this, if we get this grant, it'll make that side that he's talking about safe. And then next round, we'll have to work on the rest of it, but I don't know the details.
I'm more so meant impact on the operation of church activities. Like, I understand there was flooding in the basement.
Oh,
stuff.
yes,
So,
okay,
so
sorry,
like,
thank you.
how had that
Forgive
kind of
me.
affected,
So I had brought James, he's in the back there. He's our church volunteer maintenance guy, and he's picked up more floods in the basement. I don't know if when you guys have gone and if you went down those steps to the left, but it used to be our youth room where we had youth ministry. But I mean, even the other day, we had quite a bit of water down there. So the water's still coming down inside, but the water that was coming in where we did the 100,000, that stopped. Like, there's no more moisture there. We had some, when you guys went up those metal steps, that used to have water all down it too. So that water has stopped coming in, which is great. So we're seeing progress of it, but Paul's right, that water finds its way in, then gets behind the horsehair plaster, whatever it is, then it bubbles out, the stucco falls, and then it just looks horrible. So we're working on that. But yes, so we've seen that the money has resulted in a little less flooding, a little less damage being done. So it won't be complete until it's all done. So
okay, so it's still flooding and it's still affecting like usable space.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And could you just I know it's in the application and we heard it the last grant round, but could you just kind of detail some of your services to the community?
Absolutely. So we have a food pantry, which means anybody in the city, if anyone on city council or listening online needs food, you come get it. We don't check your ID, any of that. We don't say, are you worthy of food? Everybody gets food. So we probably do, I don't know if it's, I wish I could put a number. I thought it was about 1,000 families a month. Between that, plus we do something with RPA, where they come up and the students come up and go in our food pantry, put bags together, and then two of our teachers bring those bags of food to people in the community that need food through the school system. We partner with Mike Dion, Spindle City Church as the overflow shelter to do warming centers throughout this winter. When it was really cold, we had a stretch where we did 4 or 5 days. We had 40, 45 people in there. The nurses would come and check on them. We did haircuts one day. We fed them two meals. So we try to do as much as we can. We're trying to think outside the box, work with other people in the city that are doing stuff. So we do that. We also go out onto the rail trails in different places to give bags of food and non-perishables and toiletries. So all of that is stored in the building. We just started a partnership with the Autism Center. So their clients come and they build bags for us for the homeless, which is kind of cool. So we're trying to develop different things, and eventually it'd be great to 7 days a week the church is being used and stuff. So we're developing that too. So I think we're in the infancy stages, but obviously we need the tower to be there for it to be safe to have all this stuff, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think I asked this last go around with the previous grant, and I realize that you still haven't been able to reclaim any usable space. But do you have any plans of using that future usable space? In what way? I was going to ask. Like, any plans for that?
Yeah, so one of the things we've thought of from a church perspective, we thought it'd be cool to have like a prayer tower where people can go up and pray and get away, meditate and stuff. But from a practical spot, we were talking about making it a clothing closet where we could have, new jeans, sweatshirts, t-shirts, and those that come to church that might not have clothing, take them there to go shopping, so to speak, for free. But then when we have the unhoused there, we could bring them over there as well. It is a challenge to climb up those steps, so maybe we can throw an elevator in or something, but no, we can't do that. But so we're thinking of doing something like that, because it is a unique spot to try to use. But I think the potential is there to do stuff like that.
Okay. So if I think I know the answer, but if the tower falls, in your opinion, would the church be able to stay open and perform these services?
No, definitely not. And then I don't know if it would be a complete tear down. Who knows what? I have no idea. But no.
And the $1 million kind of plan for improvements that you mentioned, what does that include? I'm guessing that's the entirety of the building. Could you just kind of detail what your future plans would be if that went forward?
So am I allowed to hand that one off? Like, 'cause I
Sure,
think
yep.
one of you guys could probably answer that a little bit better. I don't know what.
So that was based on an original quote that Paul had provided us early on, but that would be primarily for the masonry work.
For the whole building,
For the
though?
rest of the building.
I think for just the tower.
Just the tower.
Yeah.
The
For the tower,
staging,
for the rest of the tower.
because how the tower is put in place, it's very hard to, when you're dealing with stones, you have to have, when we get up on the roof line, for example, that has to be done by, like triple grease scaffolding that does that, because you have to put, bars in there and lock it in for the weight, because of the weight. What we're doing, we're just doing the vertical walls up to the gutter line or so, and then they'll take over and do the rest. They wanted to do the scaffolding was around $300,000. So I'm trying to cut that price, down considerable. But when we get to that point, then I'll get another quote from them, and, it shouldn't even be
So there are some cast stone masonry units also that I know we looked at when we were out there, but
Would you
essentially.
talk into the microphone?
There are cast stone masonry units throughout, okay? And some of those are exhibiting signs of splintering.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no sort of consolidation that's included in what he's currently doing. It's just strictly the mortar joints that are being repointed. So some of that, that will continue to deteriorate, over time, but it's not, in some cases, it's not immediate. It's more so.
But we're also, where there's severe cracks in the stone itself, we're putting an epoxy. It's like an epoxy glue into that. It's a waterproofer, and it bonds the stone together again. So everything to keep the water out.
So the emergency grant funding amount is, it doesn't include it wouldn't finish the tower, basically. It would just make it safe.
It would make it safe.
Okay, and so that million's for the tower, not the whole church. Okay. And lastly, I think you had kind of hit on some points that sort of led to this moment, for the building leading up to now. So I was wondering if your organization would be agreeable to perhaps, we recently kind of did this with one of our past grant awards, but would your organization be open to kind of developing a sort of loose capital improvement plan for the building and a maintenance plan going forward, where it's just maybe even just like this is what you would do 50 years from now when you're going to have to fix this tower again, just so that knowledge isn't lost for future generations. So no one's in this situation in the future. It doesn't have to be hyper detailed, as I realize, the extent that it could really get to, but it's basically just some bullet point guidelines for the organization going forward, and the plan that you're planning on proceeding with, as you fundraise for the future beyond, this immediate need. I think if that was presented to the committee and the community going forward, it would kind of at least give us something to look on as your organization goes forward, and you kind of assess the needs and everything.
Yeah, so I mean, taking over an organization after the building's been there for 100 years, at that point 97 years, there's a lot of excuses. The pastor prior to me wanted to sell the building for the last 20 years, 10 years, and then people wanted to make it condos, this, that, and the other. And when I took over, my heart was really to keep it a church, try to fix it. And from our faith perspective, when we started to put money into it, the money kept coming in. You guys got us the grant, so we thank God for that. We thank you first. We thank God first, but then we thank you. But we realized that this is a horrible pattern to get in, because, like you said, in 50 years when I'm gone, if we don't take care of it, they're going to be calling Paul's grandson to come and do it again. So I'm going to ask these two gentlemen to help me put that together from their expertise of, now that we've fixed it, what do we need to do every year? Do I need to hire someone like them to come back and inspect it? I have no idea. I got to be honest with you, right? So we are going to come up with a plan so that every year we have a checklist so that we know we're getting those things done. Because I don't want my predecessors in 10, 15, 20 years to have to come before you and you guys are like, hey, you guys, it's your fault. So I see what you're saying, and yes, we will get something like that together for you.
Great. That's it for me.
So, and I think also it's looking at, just like you said, the long term. We haven't gotten to that point yet with the church, but things like windows, roofing, and just,
and even if it's just like benchmarks and goals. Say 20 years you come to this committee. This committee you can even present to this committee that we did this amount and now this is where we are. It's just kind of a blueprint for everyone.
Yeah.
Jim, anything?
Well, I have some expertise in maintaining old churches. St. Luke's Church on Warren Street.
Oh, okay, beautiful building.
Where I've been there since 1967. And we have that's what our problems are. If I can, what I'm looking for in terms of the long-term planning is a long-term plan. And I wouldn't close off other uses besides a worship center and a church. But regardless whether you have, some of the ideas we've floated around too, we're still a church. But you simply need to get the exterior, as you put it, safe, finished, reliable, and then look for other uses and put in options. It's perfectly okay to put in options of stuff you might do. And I don't think the committee is looking for a sense that you have long-term plans with some flexibility. That's all I wanted to say. I think that's close.
Done.
And it's hard with churches. I picked somebody up for church on Sunday morning, and she's right next to a former Methodist church, which is housing. One of our churches was knocked down for a parking lot. Well, hey, it's an Episcopal church, let's knock it down. But the flexibility, but also some sign that you've got to plan ahead to, besides fix the tower before it falls on someone. And I appreciate the need for that. I may in fact be in touch with the Choquette family before this is over. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, anything?
No, just fully understand your issue, and it's basically what they're talking about is a master plan, right, Mike? You've done enough of those, so.
That's the next,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have no questions.
Chris, anything?
Yeah, just one question, and apologies if this was sort of discussed in the dialogue so far. Is the $5,100 being requested? And I understand it's obviously made for the safety of the remaining structure. Will that definitely cover the safety of the remaining structure moving forward? Does that make sense in terms of no additional needs from a safety standpoint will be needed from there on out?
Probably not.
so it's enough to stabilize.
Yeah.
So, is the question, so essentially, with the money that's being requested now, that's to get us to a point where we stabilize the tower? Is that?
And that it's safe, yeah, but that it's, let's say it's 100,
That's a tricky question.
What's that?
will there be a time where you might need more for the safety purpose?
Are they gonna,
What's that?
what's the funding? What is the, that's a hard question to answer because
Okay, that's fair. That's a perfectly fine answer.
No,
Yeah.
because-
Would you like to elaborate on that though? Why is it difficult in your estimation?
I can't hear you, sir.
He asked, why is it difficult in your estimation? To answer that.
You
What
couldn't
is
hear
it?
the question.
Oh, Chris, can you just repeat the question?
Sorry, yeah, there might be some issues on the audio. So the original question is the total funding amount. You're stating that it's to allow for full safety protection on the remaining structure. I'm asking, will that definitely secure the building from a safety standpoint moving forward? In other words, 100% of the building that you're requesting for safety purposes will be secured and not, let's say, 80% or 90% being safe. Does that make sense?
Well, it'd just be the northwest
That's a
side.
hard question. When we priced out the proposal for the work, that was to do the whole tower. Now, what we've done over $100,000 in work. So the hard part is coming up, is when the walls, because as you go up, the top bulging out, you gotta take things apart. I can't say to you that if you give them 100,000, that's gonna get to the top. That's not gonna happen. I know it won't. Because there's so much going on that I wish it would happen, but it's not. That I know. I mean, I can't guarantee to you that we get to this point and, that's like, ask me what the Powerball number is for next Friday. I can't do that.
So the quote that Choquette Masonry has is 145,000 for this next phase. I had suggested to Pastor Rob to put in a contingency. Usually I do 10%, but in a case like this, there could be some additional unknowns, we might want to consider increasing that from what was originally requested. So just a brief conversation with Pastor Rob before the meeting that maybe request that we increase to 200,000, but that would be inclusive of the 15,000 that I understand the church has. So I think then the total request would be 185,000 from the CPC. And we could set aside that amount above the 145,000 as a contingency. Would only tap into it unless it's absolutely needed. Because it's a difficult question to ask. It's a good question, but it's a difficult question to answer until you start
Right.
to get into it. And I think that, we could or would closely monitor it like we did before. We involve Alex and Mike as the liaisons for the CPC. But I'm of the mind that the total request be 200,000.
Okay.
Subtract from
That's
that
helpful.
15,000, which is what the church would put in. So the request from the CPC would be 185.
Okay. In some kind of weird backdoor way, I was wondering if you had a perfect world, what would the number be that you felt comfortable with, if that makes sense? So that was very helpful. I appreciate you elaborating on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No other questions on my end.
All right. Christine, any questions?
No, I have nothing. I think everybody pretty much covered everything I was wondering.
Joanne?
But just, I do like the idea that, maybe the request is increased to the 200,000 and back out the 15,000. That way, a little bit more work can be done. Renovation work is always hard. You don't know what you're going to encounter until you're there. So I'm glad that, Chris, you brought that up and asked that question about, is that, money going to cover it? Where if this committee is able to do it and we can give more than what's asked, knowing that this will help, then I think we should do that. But
Yeah, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn here, but I'd rather like consider more and back off of it to understand that the job will get done fully than have a problem down the road that can't be reviewed until the next review cycle, so to speak. So I don't know, just again, don't want to think for everybody here, but that was just my thought process.
Okay. Well, in reserve for FY26, we have $409,000 in reserve. So if the board wishes, they could make a motion to do the 185. So in this emergency fund, you're going to go up 25 feet? Or what's your distance you're going up to do the repair?
What's the rest?
Probably to the gutter line,
The gutter
which
line,
is
which
about
would be
another 50, 60 feet,
50, 60 feet?
somewhere's in there.
Okay, 50 feet. And then you're going to take the stone down.
That's in the back. That's
Yeah.
another story altogether.
Okay, so this one, you're not taking the stone down, you're just repointing.
See, you can't take the back off unless you stabilize the sides,
Okay,
because there's nothing for the staging to hold in place,
okay,
because it's so fragile.
all right.
So-
So you're going to go up 50 feet and repoint.
I'm gonna take areas that are where the bulge is, we're gonna try to fix that on the staging.
Okay,
I don't know how bad it is from the,
On the east side.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, it's just, it's tricky. It's a stone sitting up in the air. You don't know what's holding
I'm
it
just
up.
trying to get like what we can put in
Yeah.
a motion as far as work done.
Right.
This way it's outlined
Right.
and we're covered, you're covered, so.
Right.
So can I just reiterate what I think we're doing here? It's my understanding is it's on the east side of the tower
Yes.
that needs to be stabilized. It is the north side of the tower, and then it's the northwest corner
Right.
that needs to be fixed immediately. This is because of a safety
Right.
issue to this. And so from what you're stating, based on your method of construction or reconstruction, you're thinking $185,000 plus the $15,000 from the church would at least get you to that. You feel
where the-
comfortable enough with that
Right, to
aspect
get
of it?
to where you have to put staging on the roof.
Yeah, okay.
But, because you gotta lock it into the sides, you just can't put staging on a roof and
Right.
put stones that weigh 200 or 300 pounds on it, because it won't take the weight and cause issue with roof, Especially being rained on all these years, you don't know how much rot's under there.
So
So you
the-
can't put any weight on the roof itself, it has to be on the staging.
Correct.
So to recap, the whole project to do the tower originally is about $1 million, you said?
Yes.
And so we don't really have the funding to do $1 million projects like this. So what you've done is you originally got the $100,000, did as much work to it. You saw that the pointing that was previously done was done incorrectly, which caused more work, but you got that done up to about 30 feet. And so this portion of it, because of what is currently happening right now, we need this emergency funding to keep the tower from pretty much falling down
Right.
on the east side, the north side, and the northwest corner.
Right.
And you're thinking, the condition, a little bit about the conditions out there. You've been working out there for a while. that your approach would be roughly $185,000 and not the $165,000.
Right.
That's a kind of synopsis of it, and that's
Right.
okay? All right, thank you.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, is we're gonna go up 50 feet on the northeast side and repoint. That's the bulk of the work. So-
But you have to do the front too.
Well, this emergency
You know,
funding
it's
is only
three
gonna do
sides.
this right now, right?
But I think he's gonna put those ties on the inside too, to connect the brick and the stone. That's still part of that too.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta do
You
that.
gotta
That's
connect
first
the brick
before
and
you
the
do the
stone.
outside.
Okay.
Well, you don't see from the outside of brick masonry units. You see the stone on the outside, but inside a brick masonry unit, so he's taking sections of those out, which is done as part of phase one. He's putting additional or new stainless steel ties in to sort of tie back the stone to the backup wall.
Right.
So was all part of phase one. He'd be doing more of
You
that,
have to keep doing that up as you keep going up.
and then grouting it.
Yeah,
as
and
you
then
do
grout it, and, you know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, I just wanna make sure we get everything when somebody
Right.
makes the motion.
Well, you know, my feeling is that the committee was going to do its very best to fund things and to write down.
Right.
But I am well aware that let me tell you, I am well aware of that you don't know. And my favorite story is that
But
we had a mason work on this 20-odd years ago, and he did something that looked terrible. He said it needed to be done. I watched him. He got sick. I went out and bought an edger, and it was all low. And you can't tell mine from the stuff that was in there 100 years ago. But you can't tell his either. But that was easy, but there's other stuff that you don't know. We were told we had no other problems, and here we are. So I just mentioned that to the committee, that they really can't, unless they have the ability to fly up there, know the future, and come up with an estimate.
We understand that. Jane, did you have a question? No. Does somebody wanna make a motion?
Okay, go ahead.
I'll make a motion based on what I know, and again, I might not get this completely correct, and you can tell me to stop, but I would actually make a motion to go to the $185,000, and as part of that, knowing that you've already worked on this project, you know what you're to expect, that the east side, the north side, and the northwest corner of this receive the funding as an emergency request. And so, again, the same process of putting in the repointing, the masonry, and the ties be part of this, and that be completed up to the gutter on those, in those areas. And we do understand that you might come across something that is a little bit unknown, but because of your work, your previous work, you have a pretty good understanding of what you're dealing with going forward. So that would be my motion. But again, that's above the 165 requested, and I don't even know if I can even say that.
Alex, you wanna have something?
I would just amend the motion to not include the language of up until the gutter line, because perhaps in a perfect world, they can do higher than the gutter line.
Okay.
Okay, couldn't get it all, but what did you say? Could you say it again? The motion? Yeah.
All right, I'll say the motion again, and
Okay, we have two motions, that's what
I amended a
Extended
motion.
it Past the gutter line. that we had in mind.
Oh, you're making an amendment?
Yeah, I just wanted,
thought.
I just wanted to remove the language that limited it to the gutter line in height.
Okay, well, there should be a second to your amendment,
And part
and
of this.
then we can
before we
discuss your
touch this.
amendment, yes?
I'll reiterate what the revised motion is, if that's okay. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I have this correct with these gentlemen, because I don't want to overextend something that's not realistic. The gutter line is the minimum you think you could get to? Do you think that's what you're trying to accomplish?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'll do is, when I say this, we'll use that as a minimum level of height, so that when people see this and we go and inspect it, we know that you're going up to that level, and if you get higher than that, then so be it, based on the conditions when you're working on this.
But I can't touch the north side. The north side is out of the question. Not until these sides go up.
Yeah, so.
Because actually what we're basically doing is building the foundation again for the stone.
So from the level that we walked out on.
Right.
That's, all right. So that section that we walked out on the north side is what Paul's saying, take it up to that point.
Up in that area, yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
but-
Not to the gutter.
the gutter line on the east side and,
And on the west corner, the northwest corner.
Yeah.
So
That line across there.
you feel comfortable enough getting to the gutter line on the east side of that, and the gutter line to the northwest side of that. I'm trying to make a motion that's
Right.
fair to you, and again, we're not in this profession, so we don't want to tell you to be somewhere and there's no way you're going to be there, and then you come back to us and say, well, we need another 20 feet or 15 feet. And so and I understand what you're saying, because your north-facing side of this building, there's no mortar at all.
Right.
So it's just rock on rock, it's stone on stone, and the reality of it is, you would have to take those stones down and put up a different type of scaffolding, which is about $300,000. And you're not prepared to do that on this phase. You're going to mason as far as you can go up. You're going to put the ties in and that type of scenario. And as far as you can go, the north side, that's what you'll do with this $185,000. But you feel comfortable the east side, in the northwest corner, you'll get up to the corner portion of that.
I'll get up to the gutter line, yes.
Oh, okay.
Fine.
Does
Thank
that
you.
sound fair?
Yeah, that's where I was going.
I don't do this for a living.
And perhaps add in the maintenance and capital plan language.
You got it. Okay. I make a motion to approve the $180,001. Is that correct?
I think it's revised to 185.
Just what? Okay. My motion is to approve the $185,000, which will contain the mortar, the ties, and the rebuild of the east side of the tower, the northwest corner, and as high as possible on the north side of the face, because of the overabundant mortar that's not there. I also put in this as a state that the capital improvement project or report states what your process is for future generations, and also possible maintenance associated with future generations, so that the work that is being done will be passed on to the next generation, whoever inherits this project. Does that sound fair?
It's much too long. Where did you stop?
We have put in all the work he's doing.
Right,
So it
but
covers-
after the
covers all the
references,
work.
you talked about the future generations and so forth. Is that also part of your motion?
No.
That's the maintenance plan that we're asking them to have required.
Okay.
So they have.
I just want to know,
No, I
it
don't
just
think
sounded
so.
like
Yeah, I
a
don't have
Sure.
a
sermon.
master plan.
Amen.
It's not, so just to be,
Okay, I'll
just to
second
be,
that.
Yeah.
well, just to be clear, it's not like a fully developed master plan. It's just
No,
perhaps
so-
like a bullet point list of what
All right.
they should expect to do in
So
the
I
future.
I do have a fee this time around,
Mhm.
because I spent quite a bit of time working with Pastor Rob, and so I don't know where that stands with 185, or if that comes out of the 15, doesn't matter to me. But we could certainly put together bullet points for.
Yeah, it doesn't have to go into detail, because in theory,
Yeah.
they'd be hiring for future
Sure.
work, and they should go into the
That's
detail,
fine.
whoever it might
Sounds
be.
good. We can work on that. Sounds good.
Thank
So-
you.
Can I just repeat it? 'Cause I'm gonna have to
Can you
look at-
come to a microphone,
Yes.
just because we should.
Can I use your microphone? Okay, I just need to be clear on this, that you're making a motion to approve emergency funding in the amount of $185,000 for work to be done on the east side, the northwest corner for repointing, mortar, and to place the ties in at a minimum to the gutter line as high as the north side to provide a maintenance and capital plan.
Yes. Can we have a second?
Yes.
That's second, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. Roll call?
Michael Ferris, I vote yes.
Alexander Silva, yes.
John Brandt, yes?
James Hornsby, yes.
Rick Mancini, yes.
Ms. Olivera?
Kristen Cantara Olivera, yes.
Chris?
Chris Benavides, yes.
Joanne?
Joanne Bentley, yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you very
We
much.
gotta take this and vote in front of the city council, so
Okay.
we'll let you know when that takes place.
All right. We appreciate it.
Do you mind just walking Pastor up through that process in terms of the lead time that's involved in that? So, in other words, we're not waiting till the fall.
No, this will be
Okay.
relatively
So-
quick. Sandy will put the appropriation in.
So this will be what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, I will draft a letter to be sent to the auditor's office to draft the appropriation order to send to the mayor so that he can send it down to the city council to be placed on their agenda. It'll probably go to finance. From finance, it'll go to the next city council meeting for them to vote on. So the next city council meeting is tomorrow night. It won't make it to that agenda. So you're talking 2 weeks to get to finance. And then from finance, another 2 weeks until the city council approves it. As soon as the city council approves it, they'll send me a copy of the appropriation order. I will do a requisition that will produce a purchase order. Once I get that purchase order, you can start the job. But we will have to have you sign an award agreement again, okay?
Could we potentially include a little note about that, what we were trying to do last time about maybe having it on the agenda for both finance and the
Yes.
full council meeting? So
Yes.
that way we don't wait 2 weeks
2 more weeks,
just
yes.
for that.
I'll make the request
it'll
to the
just
city
cut 2 weeks
clerk.
out of the.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
That is it. Gonna have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Michael Ferris, adjourn, yes.
Alexander Silva, yes.
John Brandt, yes?
James Hornsby, yes.
Rick Mancini, yes.
Kristen Cantara Olivera, yes.
Chris Benavides, yes.
Joanne Bentley, yes.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.